Welcome to Walk Worthy. I'm Erin.
And I'm Lindsay, and today we're going to be talking about walking worthy in grief. And so we have a couple special guests with us here today who have walked through this and have experienced it, and they're going to share with us a little bit of what the Lord has done in and through their lives since that time. So we have Gina and Genevieve, and we're so glad that you guys are here with us today.
Yeah,
So good to be here. Thank you.
So Gina, let's start with you if you want to give us just a little brief background on how grief has affected your life.
Yeah. So I was married 18 years ago and met my husband when I first moved here to Michigan. And we met pretty quickly when I first moved here and got engaged and then got married soon after that. Soon after we got married, he was diagnosed with advanced lung cancer. And so he battled it for 8.5 years. And during that time, we had triplets. And he passed away it's almost 8 years ago now.
And how old were the girls when he passed away?
They were 2.
They were 2, just babies.
Just babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like because in some way you were prepared for him, you knew that he was declining for a season. Do you feel like you began that grieving process during that time? Were you able to start that a little bit?
Yeah. Because he was diagnosed so early, I mean, there was always kind of in the back of my mind, the thought that, maybe I could someday be a widow. But, I really kind of didn't think about it all that much until he was put into hospice. And so, at the first of the year, he was at home. And that is when it really started to hit me. And, he actually did decline pretty quickly. And so I started, things were starting to pull away, and I really did start thinking about it more. And of course, I was so busy with the kids too. It was like a 3-month process of grieving. And then, of course, when he did grieve, then it was just a different kind of grief, of course. But it certainly was earlier because it was anticipated.
Yeah.
So Genevieve, for you, your story is a little different from Gina's. So how has grief affected your life?
I guess the biggest thing is that as a child, you think about your parents passing away and your grandparents passing away, but you never once dreamed that your sibling would pass away because it's just like they're a kid like me, So yeah, when I woke up that morning, my mom was screaming around the house and she was like, Corinne got in a car accident. She got in a car accident. And I was like, oh my gosh, my mom is being so dramatic right now. So then I got up, and walked into the living room and there was the cop and he was like, I have to tell you that your sister is alive. And I was like, it's that bad that that she's alive is the good news. And he was like, she's in critical condition. And I was like, okay. So then I realized what was going on. And I completely broke down. I had the baby with me and my mom left. She went to the hospital with the cop. And I had to stay with the kids, and that day was so bad. Like cars were everywhere, on the side of the road because it was so snowy. So yeah, it was kind of just like a whirlwind, and it hit us like a ton of bricks, and nobody saw it coming. So I guess the phrase that I hear a lot is, "It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real," and it still doesn't feel real. But grief is a very weird thing for me, at least. Because I don't know. Sometimes it feels real. Sometimes it doesn't. It's a very, weird is literally, the best word I could use to describe it, because it's just, weird. So, not fun at all. And, too, my family is so big, so I come from a family. My mom is on her 11th baby. Thank you, Lord Jesus. I'm so happy. So that's a blessing. But yeah, a lot of us, grieve differently. So it's walking through each other. I struggle with that because I'm a closet. And then so when my mom is crying and I have to come alongside her and be like, oh my gosh, Mom, just give her a hug. Really, there's nothing to say at times like that, really. So doing that, just learning how to help each other in that. And I'm not going to say that I've mastered it, but yeah, so just the element of helping each other and dealing with the shock, I guess, because you don't want to shove it,
Right.
which I always shove it.
So
you want to walk through it, yeah.
Yeah. So Corinne was she's on her 11th. What number was Corinne?
Corinne was number 2. I'm number 1.
Okay.
So we were 17 months apart. She was younger than me. Like, I literally, the man I hopefully will marry one day, I want him to be just like her because we complimented each other in every single way. Like, me and Corinne, we never fought. We did everything together. We just always enjoyed each other's company. Also, the dude that she was going to marry is literally me. He is me. So, like, it's so funny. So I'm like, okay, so I need a dude like that is Corinne, you know? But yeah, no, we just had the best time together as sisters. I mean, when she went to cosmetology school and I was still singing, I'm a singer, by the way. It was hard, like, you know, we had to stop our YouTube thing and I went on American Idol all by myself and she got to come with me. But yeah, it was just like different when we had to like kind of go our own ways a little bit because we weren't used to that. And then shortly after that was the crash.
So as your loved one passes away, different stories. Yours more sudden, yours was more gradual. Not to say one is obviously any easier than the other, just different process maybe. In the moment, because even though you're maybe prepared for, when you're preparing for Joe to pass away, but there's the moment of that person has gone to be with the Lord. And you're dealing with logistics and the craziness of that week. What did people do that you felt like was helpful? Maybe if you want to answer first, just that they came alongside of you and they were helpful in that time.
Yeah, so, you know, Joe's part of a big family, you know, been part of the Rock for, you know, a long time. You know, people just came, you know, and just a helping hand, helping with the kids, you know, just anything that I needed. I felt like, you know, anytime I was turning around, there was just people there to be there, both emotionally and just physically there. You know, I mean, when you're going through it, you know, everything is such a blur that, you know, just having people there to comfort was important. People would stop and pray at times. And, you know, I felt kind of the love that I really needed at that time to kind of, you know, keep me propped up and keep me moving forward. So, you know, I found that to be really comforting. And, you know, I'm very thankful for that.
Okay. How about for you guys?
So I would say the same thing. I would say definitely when we were in the hospital and we were in there for about a week, so many people came. The lounge was packed full. We would worship, we would pray, just kind of have fellowship. And I know that was so helpful to me. Now, to my parents, there was a day where they were like, oh my gosh, like, I just want to be with Corinne. Like, because, you know, people sometimes pull for your attention and it's like, but I want to be with my daughter, you know, like for my mom. So there was a day where they did say, just like, please refrain from coming just because. And our family is kind of in the public eye, at least in like Michigan, just because like I was on Idol and then now my sister's passing away. So it's like, you know, the news is coming and like everything is happening. So I could totally see where they were coming from. I kind of needed that support. So like, you know, a few people came just for that. So that was great. And then when we got home, people just kept coming. So like, and I love all these people dearly, but it kind of got a lot. Like, it was like, we can never have time to ourselves. And so like our family time, alone time was kind of invaded, and that was hard. So like, that's what I would say to like anyone that's like wanting to know, how do I help this person? Cause I know that like when somebody goes through this, I want to do everything I can to help them, even if that's staying away. And some people did do that and I appreciate that. But yeah, so I would say like, know your boundaries, and it's hard. Pray for the Lord to give you discernment on that. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say. But the support was so amazing. It was very
I feel like sometimes
helpful.
in those situations, you know someone is going through something, you don't know what the right thing to do is.
Right.
So you can end up just doing nothing. Do you feel like that is more helpful or hurtful? Would you rather someone ask, or, you know, do you feel invaded in those times?
I think it depends on, I'm so sorry. I think it depends on the person. Like, if somebody is really close to me and like, you know, they realize that I'm not okay, I would love to like talk with them and get it out. But if you're somebody that I don't really know very well, and like, this is just my personality, so this might not be everybody.
For sure.
But like, then I would be like, okay, I kind of don't want to talk right now. I just want to like, because like I said, I'm a closet griever, and it's like, it's hard for me to like, you know, really like get emotional with people, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
That's why I probably won't cry on this podcast. So yeah, that would probably be my answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think talking about it is important. I do think there were people that kind of pulled back and didn't know what to say, and I was okay with that, because you do hear about people that just they want to respect you, right? And especially with a terminal illness, and then an illness that can be something that people are experiencing a lot. They have their own grief that they're dealing with if they have a loved one, and then they don't want to actually deal with it because they just are afraid, or it brings back the emotions. And I actually found that for myself when actually my dad actually passed away 6 months before Joe passed away, and so I was still grieving my dad when Joe passed away, and then actually my father-in-law, Joe's dad, actually passed away a year after that. So in 3 years I'd lost like all the three strongest men in my life. And so going to a funeral home was really difficult for me. And for years, there would be people that I would know, not as close as family, but I could not go, because it was bringing back those emotions. But I did, find that there were people be gravitating to me who would want to talk about it, and that actually did bring a lot of comfort to be able to, comfort those that were going through that. And I think that was a part of the healing process. And I would say that for people that are in those situations, that you just never know what you could do for someone that may just want to talk a little bit. And you may not even have to do anything. It may just be the presence of being with that person and giving them comfort during that time, because it is difficult, and every day is a little different too. So
I think what's hard about it is every personality is so different. People grieve so differently, and so trying to gauge the situation. I like what you said about praying, because I really think it requires wisdom to understand what somebody needs, and there are very tangible things like meals or helping with kids or those things
helping with kids was so huge.
Yeah, I mean, really, because especially if you're, for your parents, like they need to be present and be able to be present at the funeral. But if you have all these little children, you're torn in two places, and it's hard to really be present in the way that you need to. So some of those ways of coming alongside and helping, that's very helpful. But I think the danger in like you said, helping, we feel like we're not totally sure, and if we don't ask the Lord, we can really mess it up. And I've done things before where I'm like, I should not have said that. That was the dumbest thing to say, and you can really feel like you're going to make something worse. Or I think the danger too is that we can make it about us, and that's you were talking about being willing to even step back if that's what is needed. And everybody just needs to have grace for each other. The grieving people need to have grace for those that are floundering but trying.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we do.
Giving it a shot.
Yeah.
But then also to not make it about me, because sometimes people can feel like, why didn't she break down to me because we're close? And like, she had a moment when she had a moment. You can't always control it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and maybe she needed to talk to this person and not you, and the Lord knew that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
Yeah. And so I guess for our people maybe wanting to help, really using the wisdom like you were talking about to ask the Lord, what does this person need? And it might be to come closer, it might need to back off, and even being willing to step into a painful situation, can be hard, but paying the cost as a disciple of Christ to be like, okay, this is what this looks like in this moment. I'm going to get in this grief and go through it with them.
Right.
Is there anything that you'd say that was like hurtful that we should really, really not do?
I would this wasn't necessarily hurtful, but it was like, that's interesting. There were like,
It's kind.
I mean, it feels like everyone in the world reached out, but like people like came to mind. I was like, oh my gosh, like, do they even know? Do they even care? Because like, I think sending a message is a big deal, even though we can't like read them all.
Yes.
It's like this person actually cared enough to just like send a message and say I'm praying for you or whatever, instead of like be completely distant. Because I remember like thinking, oh, so and so, like, do they know, like, because and it's not like I'm like looking at all my Facebook friends being like, who sent me a message and who didn't. It's not that, but it was like,
but when people mean something to you, you kind of think like, oh, like,
yeah, exactly.
do we mean something to them?
Right.
Kind of that.
Yes,
feeling.
that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
I agree with you. I mean, there were some people that really did pull back that I thought I was really close with, and they just kind of disappeared. And I don't know if it was so difficult for them because of the grief, and that was fine. But then what I did find is that there were people that would come out of the woodwork that I didn't even know, or that barely knew, that became like really close. So it kind of balanced out, and I thought, well, Lord, this will just work out the way it's supposed to. But I would just say that, you just have to have grace with people, because you don't know their own situations, and I try not to take it all personally, because again, it's I'm trying to walk through this, and the Lord does provide the people that we need, and that's what I focused on. That's what kept me going, is just having those people to be the support system that I needed.
That's good perspective, looking past the people to the Lord, sending the need, even if it's not through who you think it maybe you should have been through, but realizing that the Lord is still providing the need. Yeah, that's good.
So obviously there's the whole initial process when you lose someone you love. There's the funeral, there's, the visitations, all these things, but eventually all those things come to an end. And you go back to life, whatever your new normal is, whatever that looks like. What did the grieving process look like in that new normal for you guys initially, I guess?
Yeah. I think for the first couple of years, it was a blur. I don't even think I really sat down for 3 years.
When you
honestly,
had young
because I had these little kids.
You're working full time.
I worked full time, managing the house. I literally just, I do believe the Lord gave me those kids to keep me going. And I really didn't have very much time. And it was a good thing. I was processing things, but I think keeping me focused on them gave me purpose every day. And I know it was of the Lord, so that gave me comfort, even though it was very difficult. But, I find that, as we talked about, there were good days and there are bad days, and there still are. It's been 8 years, and it is a part of who you become, and for me, because, I was married, and, when you're married, you're one, right? So when someone passes away, a part of you dies, and, you have to kind of recreate who you are. And that was difficult, and that's not something you think about when you're in your 30s. You think you're going to be married for, 50 plus years, and think about death much later in life. So, I think that time frame was just really about trying to survive, trying to, understand what the Lord was trying to do in my life, and try to, just be, and not be too hard on myself. I certainly was many times, but I don't know, for me, I just kind of took it as it come. So.
What about for you, Genevieve?
I think, so we haven't even hit the 2-year mark yet. That will be in February. So I would say it is a blur, like you described it really well. I'm the kind of person where something bad happens and you can't change it, so just move on and make the best of it, So I've kind of trained myself to shut out all those emotions, And I'm busy, I have things to do, and if I have a show to perform, it's I can't be sad, I can't be crying, I need to put on my game face and go work, And my mom's got her business, which is very healthy for us. It keeps us all busy. So yeah, it's everything is kind of just everywhere now, exactly how my day was going today. Oh my word. It feels just very, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I'm very good at shoving.
Settled.
Yeah.
It's unsettling.
Right. And I have a very bad habit to just not grieve, and just embrace the new normal and make the best of it, like I was saying. So I think that's bad, and I'm trying to work on it.
I think there's good and bad in it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I think
function.
when I have time, if I'm in my car, which is a very bad place to cry. If I'm in my car by myself and I have time, I'm driving 30 minutes, and I feel a wave, then I will I'll be hey, I'm just gonna do this. I'm not gonna put my happy music on. I'll just cry.
Yourself,
Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard to navigate that, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. That was a very jumbled answer, but
no, it makes sense. I mean, you have to, because to a very real extent, even though someone passes away, regardless of your relationship with them, life doesn't stop.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So you still have to get up and, and function.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so you're kind of grieving alongside, almost like
everything else
limping
is
through for a little while, trying to figure out what this now looks like. And, were you ever angry with the Lord?
Oh my word. So just know I'm so imperfect. I'm not a perfect person. But when she passed away, the first thing the Lord put on my heart was, okay, here's your chance to show the world that you love me more than anything. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, Lord, yep, and I do. So that's what I'm going to show everybody. So in the hospital, I hope my cousin is okay with me, saying all this kind of stuff. My cousin's a new believer. I love her to death. She was telling me that she was angry with God, and she was like, I don't know how you're saying the things you're saying because, I'm mad at God. And so when I was at the funeral and I went up to speak, so this is crazy. The Lord, I don't know if this is true for you too, but the Lord had given us so many graces, even though it was so sudden. It was grace upon grace upon grace. Yes. So one of those was we had just been going through the book of Job with Corinne. Wow. It was me, Corinne's boyfriend, and was it my brother Isaac? I want to say yes. So the main lesson we learned from that book was that God is God, and we can't tell him what to do. We can't question what he's doing. We just have to submit and trust because we're his vessels. And so that's why we're here. That's the purpose that he gave us, to live out his will for his glory. So if this is his will, then I'm going to accept it, no matter how hard it will be. So that was what I had said. And my cousin, praise Jesus, she turned to the Lord and she kind of just let go of her past life. And Corinne really was her turning point into getting saved. And that's what the Lord used to reach her. And I look back and I'm like, wow, imagine if I would have got angry at God and my family would have got angry at God, and the testimony that would have sent to everyone. Because, we were on the news. We had people coming over our house every day. So many people were impacted. I get messages still. I was impacted by your sister's death. Your family's faith has shown me that blah, 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 blah. So it's just oh my gosh, I just can't imagine, if I didn't have the Lord and I went through this, without.
What would you do?
I just don't know.
How would you function?
And the Lord used it. Oh my word, the Lord used it in ways that I can't even. It would take me forever to explain all the ways. So it's just we got to see the rewards that came from just walking through it with a good attitude. And trust me, I had my days, and I want to talk about those because I learned. Eventually, I'll talk about those because I learned a lot through those days. But yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, very similar. I think I was very gracious. I would say disappointed,
That's a good word.
gypped,
Yeah.
Very confused. I found, had a really solid Christian marriage, had these 3 little babies to raise. And so the why God, the Job story, I've read that story so many times. And I'm doing it again right now because, you keep wondering, what's the story? What am I needing to learn from you? What are you trying to tell me? Why did this happen? You have kids now that are 11 that haven't ever had a dad really. Yeah. And so, that was kind of where I've been. I have found, like you, lots of graces along the way, a lot of blessings, people being impacted by the story. And I've used those moments to give me the courage to keep going so that, I know that he is in control and there's been things that, I have battled. Sure. Because it's been, a while now, and he keeps coming back to, it's me. It has to be me. And, over time it gets difficult, because you just, you have this idea in your mind of the way you want your life to go. Right. And you kind of set things out. And then when they don't happen, then it's really difficult for us to kind of internalize. But, I know God is is watching over us. He is, I've seen amazing things with my kids, to be raised in a Christian family and have to rely on the Lord as their father. I've had to rely on the Lord as my spouse. And that really, you just don't think about that. When you're in a relationship like that, you have that spouse that you can rely on to be kind of the provider and the spiritual leader of your home. And, I was a newer Christian when we got married. And so a lot of, my faith and growth was, as dealing with a husband that was dying. So when he passed away, it was almost like me and him. And so he was rebuilding me and kind of refining me as a woman and as a mother and as a Christian. And so never, never felt angry, just really trying to seek and understand, what is the story and what are the things that you're teaching. And of course, there have been many over the years of what he has revealed. And so
it seems like, and I think that's true really with any trial. We've talked about trial before, but when things happen, sometimes the knee-jerk response to God is why. And then you can struggle with anger, but it sounds like you're saying the big piece in there is surrender. Like you
my word.
surrender to
Yes,
God.
100%.
And what did Job say? Like
sooner, that'd be really
honestly,
great.
right?
That's
just
the
in
story.
life.
Yes.
Let's just go right
100%.
there. But what is Job says, right? Though he slay me, yet will I praise him. And really saying, like you said, we are your vessels to do as you please. And we can be in that fight with the Lord we can get stuck there over why and being angry. And you never move through to see his faithfulness in it. You never move through to see his provision. I love how you guys talked about the grace that brought you through that. I think in trial, people look and they're in awe if we're doing this with the Lord, right? And they can say, like, how can you do that? Well, the truth is that it is his grace that enables us to do that, and only by his grace. And that's why people look with awe and say, how? Because it's not me by myself. It's the Lord empowering me to walk this out, right? And if we get stuck on being angry, I think we can miss all the ways that he shows up and all the things that he does and how he literally carries us through these difficult times to the other side of them. But you guys both talked about there were dark days. I mean, there are days there must be times still, even for you, it's been a while, the better part of a decade where this just blindsides you and hits you and you get caught in a dark, hard moment. What do you do then? Where do you turn? What do you lean on? For somebody here, right, is really wrestling through, maybe watching that is grief-stricken and really struggling. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I just go straight to my Bible. I feel like when I'm in a really dark spot, the more that I read scripture and pray, the more at peace I become. And kind of early on in my after Joe had passed away, I was called to ministry to do the single moms ministry for a few years, and that really helped me to take my dark days and use it for His glory. And I find that it kind of it comes and goes, right? So I mean, I think that we'll have a dark day or a dark moment, or sometimes it's a dark season, and we have to continue to surrender. And I just find that sometimes I just have to close everything else out. And, I have obviously a lot to do with work and with kids. And then it's just, I block out so that I can say, Lord, what are you trying to teach me? And so I find that as I do that, and the more I read scripture and feed my soul, the quicker the joy and the hope comes. And, the Satan tries very hard to keep us from that, and because he does know our weaknesses, if we kind of move away from that for any length of time, he's going to find that little hole to kind of steer us away. So I've just found over the years, because it's been a while, that I have to just constantly keep going. I journal a lot, and kind of just put my thoughts and prayers down there. Sometimes it's talking to other Christian sisters just to get encouragement. So I mean, there's a couple different ways, but I find that just back to the scripture, it really just it becomes a part of your heart and soul, and it does bring a lot of peace.
That's good. How
So I'm seconding that. Also along, so like there was, I want to say like a few days that were strung together that I felt so, I guess you could say, entitled to like lay on the couch and scroll through my phone on Instagram and just numb my brain. Like I was like, I'm allowed. My sister died, so I can just totally turn off right now. So I just did that. Like I just laid around and it was so depressing. And I found that like when you have that like I'm entitled to grieve or like be angry or be lazy feeling, it kind of allows you to spiral down into this like self-centered, not good
Like
thing.
it feeds it.
Yeah, it feeds it. So at the end of this little thing that I had going on, I went to an event called Secret Church led by David Platt. Love David Platt so much. So good. So I was there with a bunch of young adults, and David Platt is very big on like missions. So halfway through the conference, we just stopped and we all prayed for our Somali brothers and sisters. And oh my gosh, like to hear everything that they're going through. When I was in this event, I had a wave of sadness hit me, okay? So I'm feeling sorry for myself. And then I'm hearing about all these Somali people. And I was just like, I am not the only one who is going through hard times. There are people out there that are getting killed for the sake of the gospel. They're losing family members. They're getting sick. They're losing children. Like, I have to stop this and focus on others. And that helped me so much. When I prayed in my little group for these people, my heart completely did a 180 turn. And it was like, I was not entitled anymore. I was not focused on myself anymore. I realized that, you know, we're a body and it's hard, but we're there to lift each other up. So let me come alongside you instead of keep pointing myself in my own direction and think of me. So that was huge. And I would say also along that time, I ended up going to a homeless shelter and just making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like, I'm telling you guys, like praying and serving others, praying for others and serving others was so huge in healing, I guess you could say, or just like getting my mind off of myself. You don't want to keep your mind on yourself. It's just a very damaging thing. I've learned because I've experienced it. So those were two huge things. And then going to scripture and looking at David is my last thing. Okay.
You're good.
David, I had pulled up Psalm 77, but I couldn't find the exact verse. But this passage I love because David is crying out to the Lord and he's like, Lord, like, have you abandoned me? What's going on? Like, this is terrible. My life is falling apart. And then he says, in those moments, then I remember everything you've done in the past for me and your faithfulness and your goodness. And that was just like eye-opening. It was like, all right, you know what? Yes, I'm struggling with doubt. I'm wondering if she's really in heaven because is heaven even a real place? Like all these things going through my head. And it's like, remember his faithfulness to you. Like, oh my gosh, you get up every morning. That's a miracle. Like, you know, and so those things, David would be like in the dumps and then he would, without any transition, just like switch right to praise. And it's like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. When I'm down in the dumps, I'm just going to praise the Lord and thank the Lord because I really am so blessed, like we all are, you know. So
That's good.
that's what I would say.
I think the natural fleshly tendency is to isolate and downward spiral. So when you are, you know, down for whatever reason, trying to fight back is hard, but that's good. But once you start on that path, I think it gets easier. And like you said, it changes your perspective from sadness to rejoicing. There's something that we can find joy in the Lord. That's good.
Do you think that as Christians, you know, we talk about these things and how we should be serving others, which is all true. Do you think as Christians, you talked about you would give yourself a hard time? Do you think sometimes we think that we should, a person walking through grief, maybe they think they're not snapping back as fast as they should, or, you know, wow, I can't find it in me to serve other people because I just, you know, I'm struggling that much. What is the balance between those things? You know, allowing yourself to grieve and not feeling like, oh, I have to go be a superhero because that's what God says I'm supposed to do, even though I'm going through the hardest time in my life. Does that make sense? Like the balance between those two things?
Yeah, I mean, I know I've met people that that they just haven't gone through the grieving process. So, I mean, if you've gone through any kind of grief, you know that there's the 7, 8, 10 steps or whatever of grief. And I do think that people need to give themselves the space and time to go through them all, and really to allow yourself the time to do it. And you're going to vacillate between all of them. And I found myself like stuck in a few spots, right? So like you get to acceptance and then you're back into your dark space again. And then, you kind of go back and forth. But I think, it's not weakness, to not be there. I mean, you need to really honor it, because if you don't, then your healing will be, it will take longer to heal. And, as I've said, I mean, it's been 7 years and I feel like I've come a long way. And it's a new refinement for me, but I still go through those moments of those steps of grief, and I think that if people don't give themselves the space to do it, and it's not like, okay, well, it's been 2 years, like you should, like it's just not going to be. I mean, everybody has their own time. And I would say some things I actually were able to get a little bit farther because, I was anticipating the grief. But I still had to kind of go through all those moments because, my life was changing and other people have other situations that may be happening at the time when they lose somebody. So, I find it's just really important for people to not be so hard on themselves. And nobody's judging. God does, walk through us through every step of the way. He never forsakes us. I found that he was very gracious with me in the moments where I was really dark and didn't want to. I mean, I've had moments, wanting to sit in my room and, do nothing and have my kids just run off and do the things in their house and be like, figure it out, because I am doing my thing here. But, it's, you have to kind of just walk through it, and let Lord pick up the pieces, and he will send people to you too. I cannot tell you how many times people would just come. I mean, I would be just like in a really bad place, and one of my friends would call me out of the blue. I was just thinking about you, and then we'd have this conversation, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like the Lord knew I needed this person to call me just to lift me up. And I have found those moments. I mean, they happen all the time where I just find like these little God moments just really help us through. And so it all kind of goes back to that grieving process. It's not like you check mark it off and be like, okay, we're done now.
Right.
Like, this is our story. Like, this is who we have called to be, and God's going to use the story for many years. He's going to use the story of my children and people in your family. I mean, it's going to be a lifelong thing. And so, some of the stuff that's kind of deep down, we have to allow ourselves to grieve through. So that's what I would say to people is to, don't be hard on yourself. Take the time. Reach out to people that can resonate with it. I mean, I do think that's difficult. I mean, some people, you can be your best friend, and they're not going to be able to care for you and love you the same way that someone that's been through the grief process. True. So, and that's where, when people have come to me over the years, I find I heal because I'm helping them. Like, there's just this moment of being able to kind of, pass forward what I've learned so that they can be helped as a result. So
thank you for that, because I feel like I'm not at that balance. I'm still trying to find that balance. I'm still trying to be the superhero, and it's like, I don't know, a lot of days it's like, you'll hear a lot when somebody loses somebody, not a day goes by that I don't think about you, not a day that goes by that I don't miss you. And it's like I kind of, I'm really good at shoving everything. So I'll get very caught up in like what I'm doing in my schedule and like just, not think about it at all. And it's like it never happened because I'm just like in this mode of like, continue with life, get over it. You can't fix it. You can't change it. So like, it's horrible advice. Don't ever follow it. So I feel like that's where I'm at. So I almost feel like I can't answer the question just because like I haven't like walked through that yet. But that was really
Well, I
good
think
what
it
you
just
said.
shows like the different stages and steps, and
Yeah.
over time how things
Yeah.
grow and change, and God teaches
Yeah.
you new things. And,
Right.
Yeah.
years from now, you'll be sitting in the same
Right,
place,
Yeah.
When I was at 2 years out, that's a whole
Yeah,
different story. I had 4-year-olds, so.
Yeah,
How much did you
absolutely. So what was that like? I mean, you just said your little kids, they were 2.
Yeah.
They're now 11.
Yeah.
They know their father's story.
Yeah.
Tough one. Like there are some things as parents that you like hope you never have to walk your children through. It's just too big, it's too hard, it's too much. How have you walked your children through that? What would you say to a parent that finds themselves in that spot that is like, I don't know how to help my kids do this?
Yeah. It was interesting because they were so little. The grieving process actually started happening for them when they were in school. So in kindergarten, when they were around their friends and they all had dads. And then it started to kind of hit them. I don't even know what my dad is like. I don't know anything about him. And so when they were 5, and they started asking a lot of questions. And I don't know if it was necessarily grief per se, because it was more of just trying to feel connected and have the feeling of having a parent, because they just didn't really even know what that meant. So, I honored those questions, and it was very difficult because it was still pretty new, even though it'd been a couple years, but I felt like, okay, Lord, you're going to make me do this. Okay, we're going to do this. And I remember, one of the daughters, she was really like every night for months, every night our routine, I put each kid to bed individually, and every night she'd have questions for me. And it'd be like 2 or 3 questions that she wanted to know. How did we meet? When did we, what was our first date? I mean, it was like the whole thing. So I was like almost reliving my life for her so she could see it through my eyes, so she could kind of have a feeling. And I remember like walking out of a room and just like bawling. I'm like, really? Like it was almost like grieving for me, actually. But I really wanted them to know, because all they knew was through pictures and, videos and through stories, from people. And I wanted to paint a picture and, give them just the picture of a godly man and father and how much he loved them and, the family. So, I mean, I think when it comes to, walking it through with kids, I mean, there were books and things that people had given to me. So we would read books sometimes that would just kind of, talk about grief and things like that. They were so young that I did not go to, like, Ellie's Place is a great, place for people that have lost parents that kind of walk through the grieving. I chose not to do that because they were so little that almost it was more about me just trying to paint the picture of who he was, and just honor the questions that they had so that they could, get a sense of the man he was.
Yeah, wow. So obviously for you going forward, you talked about how you and Corinne were, inseparable, all those things. There are obviously moments when you're doing things that you used to do with her. In those moments, and I guess this is kind of like going back to those dark questions. Do you ever find yourself faced with that? Like it hits you, and how do you deal with that, I guess?
Yeah. So, like one of the big things is singing, because that's my career. And she was always backing me up, even though she did not choose that as her career. She didn't know what the Lord wanted her to do. And I guess that's because he was going to take her. But so she would always like sing backup for me. She would take the low notes and I would take the highs. So like there were a lot of songs that I had to eliminate out of my set list because like I can't sing that low. And it's just like, it's like that thing that sounds like, a stupid little problem. But like, it was just like, oh my gosh, like she's not there to sing F because I can't sing F. I can sing G. So it was like, oh my goodness, like even on the way here, a song came on my playlist that we used to jam out to that I haven't heard in a long time. And it's just like, oh, like, and I allow myself to like live in that memory for a little bit, but I have a lot of control over like when I break down and when I don't. So like obviously like on the way here I didn't break down. But yeah, I think I just like pick and choose when it's like a good time to do that, but I'm faced with that all the time. Her clothes are still hung up and in the dresser and like, you know, I see her pictures everywhere. You know, we've got them in our house, and she's all over my phone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She's all over my phone. So yeah, I guess just it's a good thing. It's just like picking and choosing, like when can I break down? Can I do it now? No. So like that kind of stuff. But it happens all the time.
So as we head into the holidays, right? For someone, this is their first Christmas, Thanksgiving without their loved one. What would you say to somebody that's there?
Yeah, I think honor them as much as you can, however it makes sense. I mean, I think having family together to be able to just be together is the most important. And I think when it comes to the holidays, you know, and this kind of happens year after year is a little bit different, but I know like the first year that we, you know, had a Christmas with, you know, Joe had passed, we kind of did some traditional things, and we kind of had a space for him there that was just kind of an honorary thing that we wanted to be able to remember him by, you know. And, you know, it was sad, it was hard, but, you know, we talk about memories. You know, there was moments where we would, you know, just kind of reminisce about something funny that he would do, and then, you know, kind of laugh about it. So it kind of was part of the healing, even though it was really hard. You know, I found it better to always have a lot of people around me, because I remember like when the kids go to bed and it's Christmas night, and I'm thinking, you know, that was really hard, you know, so like I kept myself really positive and upbeat during the day, but then when you're alone, that's when you kind of crash, right? And you're like, oh, here's the first Christmas, and then here's the first birthday, and whatever. And I think, you know, people just need to, again, kind of goes back to grace, like, you know, just be in a place where you can really honor them the way that they would want you to be honoring them, you know. And again, don't be hard on yourself if you just, you know, don't want to do exactly everything that you thought you should, you know. I mean, there's no real recipe for it, really.
Right.
You know, I think the one thing that we don't want to do is just like sit in a room and just like close out and Christmas is canceled, right?
Right.
So I mean, like, we can't just like not do those things, right? Because again, our loved ones don't want us to be just wallowing, and we know that we're with the Lord, and, you know, Joe's no longer sick, and, you know, he's healthy, and, you know, praise the Lord. So, you know, I just think, you know, we need to kind of just go into the holidays, and walk through them, you know. And I mean, you hear about, oh my gosh, your first everything, and, you know, it's hard. You have to get through it. And, you know, I think just give yourself a little grace, and, you know, be around the people that love you, and they're all going through tough times too. And it kind of balances itself out. At least that's the way it was for us, which I was very thankful for.
That's good. Yeah, I would probably say being around people is huge. And like, I would even say, like, if somebody's an introvert and they don't want to be around people, at least, because you, like you were saying, you don't want to isolate. Like, that's not healthy. We've only been through one holiday season without her, and I would say, honestly, like, birthdays are harder. So like, those were like, I would kind of equate birthdays to holidays, I guess you could say. I kind of sat down and I wrote a little song. Like, I mean, like, it's just however you want to walk through it. But like Christmas and New Year's, she hated Christmas. That's when we all got sick, and like, she had a throw up phobia, and so like, she could not stand it. So it's hilarious. Like, every time Christmas rolls around, I'm like, oh man, Corinne's so glad she's not here. So like, yeah, there was that. But it's just like, being around my family is so precious to me. For me personally, I'm such a huge family person, and not having Corinne helps me to cherish them even more. So that's a comfort to me, getting together with my family. And I don't know, I guess drawing out of that, I could just say, like count your blessings amidst the grief. Like, it's there, but just know too that like, God has given you a roof over your head and a group of people to celebrate the holidays with. And you don't have to like be laughing and smiling and amazingly in this awesome mood all the time. But, you know, like she was saying, walk through it, you know, and it's hard, but it's just kind of something that has to happen. Yeah. Can't get around it.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we kind of already answered this question, but just throughout. But how have you seen God use your grief? Maybe just to kind of wrap it all up, how have you already seen him using this? We've mentioned, again, some things in the other questions, but maybe just how have you seen him use it?
Yeah. For me, I think I kind of started early where I remember the first time I walked back into work and I was in a meeting and they were talking about something. I have no idea what it was, but I just know it was kind of like wah, 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 wah. Like I was like thinking, really, like things are just not that important.
Yeah.
Like you learn your filter forever changes. And I find it actually such a huge blessing because I think over time I have just really tried to stay balanced with like I just don't sweat the small stuff. I don't get worked up about the things. I have a very stressful job and I got a lot on my plate, of course, but I just everything, when you feel like you've been through the worst thing, and I mean I know there's a lot of worse things, but I feel like for me this is it was really a tough thing. And I think, anything else that I walk through is just really, like,
Yes.
it gives you
Yes.
perspective,
It does.
right?
And it's actually biblical in Romans where it talks about,
Yes.
what is it? Trial brings about perseverance.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
proven hope
Proven
is the
hope,
end of it. Like
character.
after
Yes.
all those things, the end of it is proven hope because you've seen him rescue you
Yes.
from that.
He
So-
has. So I feel like, okay, so here I am. I'm still walking. My kids are awesome. Like I have so many things around me that are just a huge blessing. And I just think, he has used this in ways that, we just don't know. Like, I don't know who all I've touched, but he's used the story. And I'm so thankful for that. So I find that gives me a lot of peace and knowing, if he took me tomorrow, my kids are in awesome shape. We're around a bunch of, wonderful family and friends. And, it's interesting because now that there's been time, I feel like I'm in a place where if the Lord were to take me tomorrow, that I feel like I'm doing all the things that he's asked me to do, and a lot of dark things too and tough things. But I feel like, here was someone that was very healthy, that he lost his life at 51. And I feel like at any moment, any one of us could be gone tomorrow. And so, I've said to people, it's like, you just never know when the Lord's going to take you. So we need to use our time here on earth to touch others and to teach them the Lord and what he has done in your life. And you become burdened for people that are lost in ways that you don't even really. I mean, it's just like mind blowing as time goes on. And then we think about the world today, right? And you think the Lord's going to be coming a lot sooner than what we think, maybe, depending on how things are going. It seems that way. But it's like, we have so much work to do. A lot of kingdom work, and I just feel like, we're all, on this journey to reach the lost, and so. That's kind of where I've found the grief to be something that has really, it's a gift. It's a terrible thing to kind of go through, but, it can be a gift. And, you certainly don't want anyone that you know and love to go through it. But it's like, but if I could help someone, and maybe it's not even a grief of someone that passes away, but there's lots of other things that we grieve. Griefs of friends and just losing a job. I mean, it's kind of spans a lot of things. So, it's the things that you go through, the steps are similar. It's just, I think the deepest is, of course, of those that we, love the most that, are no longer here on this earth. But
So good. Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for me and my mom, I don't know about the rest of my family, but we just are so detached from the world. Like, this is not our home. We are living for something greater. And that is such a comfort, I guess you could say. alongside of that, like so many people got saved, gave their lives to the Lord. I have this necklace that's me and my sister engraved on it. And this lady sent it to me, and I don't even know who she is, but I felt so compelled to answer her message. And she's like, I just had to tell you, like, I was a pastor's daughter. I ran away at 19. I totally lived for myself in the world. And, like, your sister's story has just pricked me and brought me back. And, like, now my son is following the Lord. And I'm just like, what? Like, this is so amazing. And that's just one story. Like, so to see that makes it all worth it. Also knowing that, like, God doesn't waste anything. He doesn't waste our pain. He works everything for good for his children, you know, and like that is such a comfort when anything wrong is going on. It's like, all right, God is using this. He's using it. So like, I'm just gonna keep using me, Lord. Like, and that's not easy to do. And I will say this, it was not long before the accident that I asked the Lord to test me, because I was like, I'm at a good place with the Lord. I'm at a good place. I just want to know. I want to like keep having assurance. So like, just test me, Lord. Like, and I know what I'm asking. Just test me. And I did not know what was coming. But it was just like, I look back and I don't regret praying that, because God just grew me so much and brought my family so close together. And, you know, and obviously there are some bad things that come out of it. Like if Satan can't get us, he's going to get the kids, you know, like just stuff like that it's like we always have to be on our guard. But even through that, just knowing that we're sowing seeds, we are just surrendering our lives to him, and knowing that he doesn't waste our pain and he doesn't waste our labor. So those are, a huge perspective change. Like I would definitely say that, and so amazing to see. I guess those are the biggest things.
That's good.
Yeah.
We appreciate you guys being so vulnerable and open and letting us kind of root around in some of your deepest pain for the benefit of other people, and hopefully discipleship. So thank you so much, you guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Well, thanks for watching us this month. We hope that this is helpful to you. We do have grief share programs. They're all over, but we do have some that meet through the Rock. We'll put that information in the notes below. If you are someone that is walking through grief right now and you need help walking worthy of it, you need to talk to somebody. You want the Lord to not waste this pain, but to use it for his glory. We hope that you'll reach out, and we will see you next month. But until then, walk worthy.